They sent the barren alien princess to a human as a joke, but she returned with a child. The imperial court of Velthera had always considered humanity beneath them in every conceivable way. When the Galactic Council mandated cultural exchange programs between species, the Veltheri nobility saw an opportunity for cruel entertainment rather than genuine diplomacy. Princess Lyra stood before the assembled court, her silver skin gleaming under the chamber's bioluminescent ceiling. She had been declared barren by the royal physicians 5 cycles ago, a shameful status that had stripped her of succession rights and reduced her standing to little more than a political pawn. The whispers had followed her through every corridor, every banquet, every moment of her existence since that diagnosis. High Chancellor Vorn raised his 3-fingered hand, and the chamber fell silent. His reptilian features twisted into what passed for a smile among his kind. "Princess Lyra," he announced, his voice carrying across the vaulted space, "you shall represent our glorious empire in the human exchange program. You will be paired with one of their kind for a full solar cycle." Laughter rippled through the court. Everyone understood the insult. Sending a barren princess to the least impressive species in the known galaxy was a joke of magnificent proportions. Humans were newcomers to the galactic stage, barely capable of faster-than-light travel, and their biology was considered primitive at best. "We expect you to endure this assignment with dignity," Vorn continued, barely suppressing his amusement. "Perhaps the humans will teach you something about accepting one's limitations." Lyra bowed her head, refusing to give them the satisfaction of seeing her pain. She had learned long ago that showing weakness only invited more cruelty. The transport ship delivered her to Earth 3 weeks later. The planet was surprisingly beautiful, with its blue oceans and green continents, so different from Velthera's crystalline landscapes. Her assigned partner was a man named David, a botanist who worked at a research facility in a region called Colorado. David greeted her at the landing platform with a genuine smile that caught her off guard. He was tall for a human, with kind brown eyes and an easy manner that seemed devoid of the political calculation she had grown accustomed to at court. "Welcome to Earth, Princess Lyra," he said, extending his hand in the human gesture of greeting. "I hope you'll forgive the informality, but I've never been good at royal protocol. I'm just David." His home was modest, but filled with growing things. Plants covered every available surface, creating a small jungle within the dwelling. Lyra found herself fascinated by the sheer variety of life forms, each one carefully tended. "I know this assignment probably feels like punishment to you," David said over dinner that first evening. "The cultural briefing made it pretty clear that your people don't think much of humans." Lyra felt her face flush with embarrassment, a physiological response she had thought her species incapable of. "The briefing said that?" "Not in so many words," David replied with a slight smile. "But I'm pretty good at reading between the lines. Look, I don't need you to pretend this is something it's not. We've got a year together. We might as well make it bearable." His honesty disarmed her completely. For the first time in cycles, someone was treating her like a person rather than a political piece or an object of pity. The weeks passed in unexpected comfort. David taught her about Earth's ecosystems, sharing his passion for the intricate relationships between plants and their environments. Lyra found herself opening up about Veltheri culture, the beauty of her homeworld's singing crystals, and eventually, haltingly, about her status as barren. "The royal physicians said my reproductive system is malformed," she explained one evening as they sat in his garden beneath Earth's single moon. "In our society, a princess without the ability to produce heirs is worthless." David was quiet for a long moment. "Can I ask you something that might be too personal? At this point, I think we're past such boundaries. Did your physicians actually examine your biology in detail? Or did they just compare you to what they expected?" Lyra frowned. "They performed the standard tests. My hormone levels were wrong, My reproductive organs underdeveloped according to Velthari norms. According to Velthari norms, David repeated thoughtfully. Lyra, I'm a botanist, not a doctor, but I've learned that biology is incredibly diverse. What's normal for one species might be completely different for another. Has anyone ever considered that maybe you're not defective, just different? The idea had never occurred to her. The possibility that she might not be broken, but simply variant struck her with the force of a physical blow. There's a colleague of mine at the university, David continued, Dr. Elena Rodriguez. She specializes in xenobiology and comparative reproduction. Would you be willing to let her examine you? No pressure, but it might give you answers that your royal physicians couldn't. 3 months into her stay, Dr. Rodriguez completed her analysis. The human physician sat across from Lyra with a tablet full of data and an expression of fascination. Princess, your biology is remarkable, she began. You're not barren. Your reproductive system is perfectly functional, just designed differently from the average Velthari. Your physicians were looking for one type of hormonal signature when your body produces variations they didn't recognize. It's like they were looking for apples and declared you broken because you produced oranges. Lyra felt the world tilt beneath her. Are you saying I could have children? I'm saying you almost certainly can, Dr. Rodriguez confirmed. In fact, your system shows some fascinating adaptations. You appear to have a wider compatibility range than typical Velthari, probably an evolutionary variant that showed up in your bloodline. It would have been advantageous historically, allowing for genetic diversity. The implications crashed over Lyra in waves. She had been cast aside, humiliated, and exiled based on a misdiagnosis born from narrow thinking and insufficient investigation. The relationship between Lyra and David had deepened over the months from friendship into something neither had anticipated. They had not planned for love, but it had grown in the spaces between their conversations, in shared laughter and quiet moments of understanding. When Lyra discovered she was pregnant, the news felt simultaneously impossible and inevitable. Dr. Rodriguez confirmed it with undisguised excitement, marveling at the successful hybridization between their species. This is extraordinary, the doctor explained. Your genetic compatibility is remarkable. The child will be healthy, viable, and completely unique. David held Lyra's hand tightly, his eyes bright with tears. We're going to be parents. The year drew to a close, and the transport ship arrived to return Lyra to Velthara. She stood at the landing platform with David beside her, and their unborn child growing within her body. You don't have to go back, David said quietly. Earth would welcome you. I want you to stay. I know, Lyra replied, but I need to return. They need to see what their cruelty and ignorance created. They need to understand that their assumptions about weakness and worth were wrong. The imperial court assembled once again, expecting to receive a humbled and diminished princess who had endured her punishment among the primitives. Instead, Lyra walked into the chamber with her head high, her body showing the unmistakable signs of advanced pregnancy. The shocked silence was profound. High Chancellor Vorn rose from his seat, his expression cycling through disbelief and confusion. This is impossible. You were declared barren by our finest physicians. Your finest physicians were wrong, Lyra declared, her voice carrying through the chamber with authority she had never possessed before. They were limited by their assumptions and their unwillingness to look beyond traditional understanding. The humans, whom you consider primitive, discovered in months what your experts missed in years. She placed a hand on her swollen abdomen. This child is proof that humanity has something we lack, something far more valuable than advanced technology or ancient lineages. They have curiosity without prejudice. They have the wisdom to question their assumptions. They have compassion that extends beyond their own kind. Emperor Thane, who had remained silent throughout the proceedings, leaned forward on his throne. His ancient eyes studied his granddaughter with new interest. "You carry a hybrid child," he stated. "Human and Velthari." "I do," Lyra confirmed. "And I carry more than that. I carry the possibility of a future where we don't discard what we don't immediately understand, where difference is investigated rather than dismissed, where worth is measured by character rather than conformity." The Emperor was quiet for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, he smiled. "It seems, granddaughter, that your exile has taught you to be more royal than many who never left the palace. Welcome home. You and your child will want for nothing." Lyra bowed, but she knew her home was no longer solely on Velthara. She had left part of her heart on a blue planet orbiting a yellow star, with a botanist who had seen her worth when no one else could. 6 months later, Lyra gave birth to a daughter. The child had her mother's silver skin and her father's brown eyes, a bridge between two worlds. David arrived for the birth, and the sight of him holding their daughter made everything else fade into insignificance. They named her Nova, for new beginnings. The joke had been on the Velthari court, a